Howdy, and welcome to the Research Minute Podcast. I'm your host, David Butler. This is the podcast that takes university research from the campus and brings it into the community. Today on the program, we have Chaney Mosley, a professor of agriculture education at Middle Tennessee State University. Welcome to the program, Chaney.
Thanks for having me.
All right, what is agriculture education? So you hear that, it's like, I kind of know what agriculture is, but what is ag ed?
Yeah, I'm going to break it down a little bit because I think agriculture education is many things. So my focus at MTSU is on school-based agricultural education. So
As opposed to what? Teaching people like extension work out on the farm?
Yeah. That's great. So think about a public school teacher who has a license in the state of Tennessee to teach agriculture to middle school and high school students. And so that's my focus, preparing students who want to teach agriculture in public high schools and public middle schools in Tennessee.
All right. So how did you get here? So walk us back. Where were you born? Where were you raised? You know, as a kid, what you did and how you found your way into ag education?
I love that question. So I'm a Tennessee native, born in Nashville. Those first 5 years of my life, we had a farm in Nashville. So if you can imagine that.
You know, Nashville's a city. It doesn't have farms. So you were in a condo and it was like rooftop farm?
Not even. No, I think when we sold the farm, it may be condos now. But this was in the early 80s when the family sold the farm. And but we had hogs and we had horses and we grew some crops. And then we moved to Eagleville, Tennessee, right here in Rutherford County. A very small rural town when I was there. And it's grown a lot. But
Did y'all have a farm in Eagleville? When y'all moved there, did you bring your hogs and your crops and all that with you?
We did have a farm there. And,
Nashville farm to Williamson County farm.
Yeah.
Okay. I just want to make
much more rural. Yep, absolutely. And we had horses there. We also raised cattle, had crops, had an orchard.
You said hogs and no more hogs?
We had we did not have hogs in College Grove.
Why'd you give up the hogs, the Nashville hogs?
You'd have to ask my parents that question. I have no idea.
You like the hogs?
I like.
That's enough.
I like pork-based products. I'll say that.
But taking care of them is a mess.
It's not actually hard, but hogs are kind of messy. And if it's, we were more hobby farmers. It wasn't our family didn't do that as our sole source of income.
Right.
So, but no, we didn't have the hogs in College Grove, just horses.
This episode's brought to you by bacon.
Yes,
pork fat makes everything taste better.
Yeah, man. I got to tell you that. I mean, I'm not going to say no. So, I do love pork. There you go.
The funny thing is, only food I've ever met, whether someone's a vegan, vegetarian, doesn't matter. I've yet to meet someone who does not like bacon. I know a lot of people that will not eat it, but never have I ever met someone who ate bacon and go, ooh, that's horrible. Yeah, they want it cooked a little more, a little crispy. I want a little chewy, but never have I met anyone that said, oh, that's just a horrible taste.
Okay, look, we're going to go off on an aside here, but this morning I had a conversation with, there's this diet called the Whole30 diet, and a lot of people will do it at the month of January, and you're basically giving up all sugar, all carbohydrates, or something like not all carbs, but for definitely all sugar for like a month, right? Or a little healthy reset. And a friend who introduced me to this was explaining to me like, oh yeah, we're doing this for just the month of January. And about 3 weeks in, I checked in with her and her husband. Right. How's it going? And she said, we were at the grocery store shopping and we went through the bacon section.
Yes.
And I cried because we couldn't have bacon because there's so much sugar that's associated with, the preservation and whatnot. She's like, just additives. And I could not find bacon that did not have sugar in it.
Just don't get the maple version.
It's more difficult to find than you can imagine. Yes. And I said, and that brought you to tears? And she said, yes, I love bacon so much. So the smell of it, the day. Well, I could go on and on about bacon. Yeah.
Okay, so you moved to Williamson County?
Yeah. Get to high school, there you had to choose the college path or the technical path. Okay. So that was the Tennessee's education system at the time. And I remember telling the school counselor, I want to take agriculture classes, but I also plan to go to college.
Right.
And she said, oh, well, we have a dual path that you can also take. Great. Sign me up.
They gave you an option for two, but didn't tell you about the third path. The secret path you had to know about.
Yeah. And so I took agriculture all 4 years in high school. And my senior year of high school, I was all over the place, like many students. I think I wanted to be a veterinarian when I was a freshman in high school. Okay. Then I wanted to be a meteorologist. And then I wanted to be a physical therapist. I was all over the place.
All those are needed for ag. You have to know the weather.
Yeah.
You have to take care of animals.
Yeah.
And, What was the other one?
Physical therapist.
Aches and pains from running a farm.
Yep.
Make sure you have all your toes and fingers.
Yeah, there was some interest there. And then I'm sure I was all over, like those are the ones that I remember talking about.
Right.
I think I wanted to be a parapsychologist and study ghosts at one point, just like a teenager who is just curious about a lot of things. And when the time came to make a college decision, I really, and that was spring of my senior year of high school, I thought, I know that agriculture is something that I enjoy.
Right.
And these other thoughts that I have, I don't know if I enjoy them or not. Settled on a degree in agriculture business here at MTSU. So I came here for undergrad, and my minor was education. I wasn't sold on teaching agriculture. I thought I would go work for some, agriculture cooperative or some other agribusiness. That's why I got the degree in agribusiness, right?
Or do ghost hunting on farms.
Ghost hunting on farms, yeah. The Ghost Scout. And so I graduated college, and a position opened up right before school started, and I got a phone call, and there I went. And so it's the job that was available. I took it, taught high school for a couple of years. Right. September 11th happened, and I joined the Army.
So, there you go.
Yep. In September 2001, I enlisted in the Army, and so I went to basic training. A little older than most of the recruits.
Where'd you do basic?
Fort Benning, Georgia.
There you go.
Sand Hill. So
do it in the summer.
So if you know about Sand Hill, oh yeah, because I was teaching. That's the only time I could go.
So you're in the summer.
So
heat, humidity.
Yeah. So there are probably some folks who are listening who are like, oh yes, I've been to Fort Benning, Sand Hill. I remember that well. And so I spent about 2 years doing some initial training. Came off active duty. And came back to MTSU, finished my master's degree with a little more confidence. Excellent. So I taught for about 7 years. Stayed active in the military doing that through the Army Reserves for about 8 years. Moved on to Virginia Tech.
I got to ask a question.
Oh, yeah, hit me.
You have a degree in hand.
Yeah.
You enlist. Why not go ROTC? Why not go officer candidate school? I mean, you had the degree, right? All you needed was the undergraduate degree, so... Why'd you go buck private? I guess
the best reason is that I kept this secret. I didn't tell anyone in my family that I was doing this. And had I shared this information, I didn't tell anyone. I just did it. But I'll tell you what, I'm glad that I didn't do that initially. I think there's value in experiencing being an enlisted service member.
Yes.
And going through the ranks. I later on went to officer candidate school at 38 years old. So that was an interesting choice.
Yes. But you become a better leader as an officer having been enlisted.
My perspective is that having served as an enlisted soldier for 8 years helped me understand the experiences of enlisted service members so that when I became a platoon leader and was leading troops, that I had just, I don't know, maybe a little more empathy for what they were experiencing or going through. Anyway, all that being said, go to grad school. At Virginia Tech.
Why did you decide to do a PhD? What was it that was like, oh, I need a PhD?
Oh, man, I love this story. I love it. I have to tell you, my advisor here in undergrad was Dr. Cliff Ricketts, and just an incredible guy. Now, Cliff's oldest son, John Ricketts, when I moved to Georgia, I got reconnected with John. I loved teaching. I thought I would be in the classroom, for real. I thought I'd be in the classroom for probably 30 years.
Right.
I didn't want to leave it because I enjoyed it so much. And so what I also knew is that I wanted to increase my salary. Yes. So I wanted to get that doctorate. I applied for a program in educational policy studies at Georgia State University, and I did not get accepted. So right here's the John Ricketts, the son of a man of Cliff, who I had tremendous respect for. I reached out to John and said, I'm going to share with you my resume. I applied for this PhD program. I didn't get in. Will you take a look and tell me how can I improve it?
Mentor me through this.
Yep.
Right.
And instead of doing that, John took my resume and forwarded it out to other universities and said, here's a guy who's interested in a PhD. I think you should give him a call. He didn't tell me that.
Right.
Well, so I started getting phone calls. Let's see, Texas A&M called, University of Florida, I think, maybe Virginia Tech, Utah State University. But these are
well-known ag schools. These aren't
absolutely.
These are like top 10 in the country.
Yeah, so some of them may have emailed, but at one point I got on the phone and I said, you're the third university who's reached out to me saying, I heard you're interested in a PhD program. Who did you hear that from?
Yes.
And I'm like, oh, well, John Ricketts, he sent us your resume. And so I called John. I'm like, dude, what'd you do? And he laughed, and John said, I know that you want to stay in the classroom, but I've watched you grow as a teacher. And I think your potential for positive impact in our field of agricultural education will not be realized until you teach future teachers, because I've watched what you've done with your students. And I really think that you need to get a PhD in ag education, not education policy.
Right.
And I think you need to teach future agriculture teachers. And so John knows this. I've told him this. John has been a catalyst for a lot of things that have happened in my life. And now, ironically, he's at Tennessee State University. So doing the same thing that I'm doing here at MTSU, just right down the road. Yeah, he's a good dude. Did that, worked in high school administration for a while in Metro Nashville schools. And then the position opened up at MTSU, and a few people called and said, you should do this, you should do this. And some current ag teachers told me about it, and some other friends and colleagues. And I thought, well, I mean, this is what I went to graduate school to do.
Right.
Here's the chance. And so here we are, 8 years later. And
interesting.
I guess I made a good decision.
Yeah, that's a great story how you got here.
It's wild, man.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit about your current research. What is it that you actually research?
My research is all over the place, I will tell you. And so I think it helped, that introduction probably helps explain why my research is all over the place. So when we think about agriculture, I've got areas of research that focus on agricultural education, specifically teacher professional development, but also how students learn and how to teach a variety of topics. We can talk more about that if you want. I also investigate mental health and stress in the rural or agricultural community, but I specifically focus on agriculture teachers and learn some really interesting things through that. It's very much become a passion project because these are the people that I work with and that I care tremendously about. But teaching can be stressful.
Yeah, and the agriculture community, whether it's education or otherwise, very tight-knit community.
Very
Everyone
much so.
knows everybody. It's very old school.
Across the country.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
I really focus on suicide awareness and suicide prevention. And so there's that.
Let's just talk about that. So, interesting. What would cause mental health issues to be so acute with, say, farm families and people in agriculture that most people, most listeners and watchers may not realize the stressors that happen with people in this kind of career or this field?
I appreciate that you use the word stressors. And so first, let me say of the top 10 career fields at the greatest risk for suicide ideation or, contemplating death by suicide, veterinarians and farmers are in there.
Yes.
Well, veterinarians work directly with animals, some agricultural animals, livestock, and some more companion animals. But still, when we think of MTSU and what we're serving, we have students who aspire to go to veterinary school.
Yes.
We also have students who aspire to become farmers. And we have students who desire to work in the agriculture industry in general. Agriculture has some unique stressors, especially for farming families or those who are farm workers that don't exist with some of the other career fields. Similarly, teaching and education also has stressors that may not exist in other career fields. And so there's this really interesting intersection there, which is why I like to focus on ag educators. But to get back to your question, the livelihood of farmers hinges on producing feed and food.
Right.
So feed for livestock and animals and food for human consumption.
Right.
Because of that, we are at the mercy of the elements.
Yes.
So think about that, right, man? Weather is crazy. It's unpredictable. And some can say, just watch the news. But I think everyone listening to this podcast can agree. The weatherman has been wrong more than once, right?
And they still keep their job. What a job to be wrong most of the time and keep your job.
Yeah. So, but weather is unpredictable. An early frost can kill a crop and there you go. That's the livelihood of that farm is impacted.
Yes.
Or flooding, and we've experienced this here at MTSU, can kill your livestock, right? It takes them away, you just don't know.
Or you get rotted foot and all these other stuff that comes up out of that.
Yeah, a lot of things. And also flooding can destroy crops. And similarly, drought can destroy. So farmers are really at the mercy of the elements. And I think that's something that really is unique. Not unique. There are other career fields, but I think it hits farming families really hard, and so that's a potential stressor there that's somewhat unique to them. Farming can also be isolating if you think about that. I think about my in-laws who still farm just over 1,000 acres. They're in their 80s, right?
Yes.
They're up before the sun for sure out there, and the boys they enjoy spending some time with the grandparents, but sometimes like, man, why did Granny and Paul get up so early?
Yeah,
I'm like, well,
can't
get
wait
out there
to-
with them. You
can't
got to
wait
go
to co-
feed those cows. They're not going to feed themselves.
Can't wait to come home and rest.
Yeah, exactly. Or, they enjoy riding in the tractor and cutting and baling hay
Yes.
with them. Luckily, they have a tractor that's air conditioned.
Yes.
Like, kids, y'all have no idea.
Yes.
But I think about them, and they live in a rural part of Kentucky. And it could be potentially isolating. I will tell you, there's also a negative stigma associated with mental health and suicide
Absolutely.
that persists in rural areas, and most farming happens in rural and suburban areas. And because of that stigma, farmers, farm workers, and farm families who are experiencing, I would say, maybe they're in a mental health crisis, or they don't have a label to put it, but they're depressed or experiencing depression, are aware of that stigma, and because of that may refuse to seek help.
Sure.
And so there's another aspect, another layer there that is not associated with every career field.
Because of the
farming's tough, man. Agriculture's tough.
Yeah, the rugged individualist, right? The lone farmer, the cowboy, the Kevin Costner Yellowstone Dutton family. It's like, no, if you have a rough time, you don't whine or complain. You just grin and bear it and keep going. And that's great for television. That's not the way life works.
We could go on and on about what add some of the stressors of agricultural work, but there are just a few right there.
Tell us some hopeful insights that you found in your research.
So I led a multi-state research team, and it was really cool. 13 states and 2 territories, Puerto Rico and U.S. Virgin Islands. Okay. And so we did a regional study focused on agriculture teachers, and we were looking at their awareness of suicide warning signs and also their awareness of farm stressors. And in doing that, we also probed their experiences with training, professional development regarding this information, right? If they'd received any sort of training to recognize suicide warning signs or to intervene. So you talked about positive insights. I'm just going to talk about some insights in general. Okay. In general, what we discovered is that female or women agriculture teachers were more aware of farm stressors and more aware of suicide warning signs, and were also more willing to engage in professional development related to suicide awareness and suicide prevention than male ag teachers. When we look at that, we try to think, well, where does this come from? Why such a difference? Much of that goes back to the stigma associated with the word masculine or masculinity is interesting to me, because what does that mean? Is that stigma stronger with male populations? That wasn't one of the questions that we were looking at, but when you think of male agriculture teachers, is that stigma associated? But let me tell you something else. What we discovered also is that teachers with fewer years of teaching experience, regardless of gender, were more willing to engage in professional development than more seasoned teachers around. And now our question was around suicide, but we also contemplated, does the topic matter, or is it that teachers with fewer years of teaching experience are wanting to learn more and do better?
Yeah, just eager.
Than someone who's been teaching 10, 15, 20 years. But I'll tell you the most alarming statistic that we got from that, though, is that 1 in 5 agriculture teachers had contemplated suicide.
Wow.
And that was not a statistic. You have hypothesis, right? You would think, here's what we think we're going to find. That wasn't, we were not expecting.
And teaching is also a stressor. And I would argue, having watched education, having come from a family of educators, being a public or K-12 teacher now is more stressful than it's ever been in my lifetime.
Yeah. I will say, I think the respect for teaching as a career field has decreased since, I won't say diminished, but it's certainly decreased since I started teaching back in the fall of 2000. So that was 25 years ago. And I would also argue that the environment has also changed significantly. In addition to teaching the content and to teaching the standards, teachers are also expected to manage classroom behavior.
Yes.
Man, you put a cell phone that has Wi-Fi access and all these apps in the pockets or the hands of a child. So that's really stressful, right?
I would love for a teacher to walk in right now and go, I'm taking your cell phone. I'll say thank you.
Man, you got that right. I don't know. So teaching is stressful. So you got agriculture teachers who many don't even identify themselves as farmers.
Right.
Agriculture teachers are farmers, and that may not be a part of their identity, but they are subject to the same things that similarly that farmers are. Now different, but the same elements that we talked about can still impact an agriculture teacher.
Sure.
And add on top of that the stressors of being a teacher in general. And there's still that isolation. Man,
Yes.
the 4x4 walls of a cement classroom and you're the only adult in that room can be quite isolating if you think about it. So I don't know. It's an area that is of really great concern to me, and just trying to figure out what can we do through research. What insights can research give us about how to support this population to decrease suicide ideation, right? So how can we support agriculture teachers so that number of one of every 5 teachers have contemplated may go down to none have contemplated, but that's a pie in the sky goal, but hopefully fewer. But I got to tell you, the other thing that we don't know is if their primary sources of stress are from teaching agriculture,
Right.
or if they're from teaching in general, or if they're from working in agriculture in general, or if it's from some other personal quality or characteristic that we don't know about.
Or maybe teaching students who are in agriculture that may be from a farming family where those stressors are coming through them and showing up in the classroom.
Man, kiddos bring the stresses of their family into it, and they talk about, absolutely.
Well, plenty of area for future research.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for coming on the program today. I appreciate it.
Oh man, thanks for having me. This was great. Is our time up already?
It is.
That went quickly.
I want to thank Chaney for joining us here at the Research Minute podcast. And here at the podcast, we love all teachers. And if you're having some challenges, please seek out help early.